you're going to be completely enjoying it. Okay, Avni, you're doing a wonderful job here. And in a moment, I'm going to get you to stand up and open your eyes, and you're going to talk absolutely normally to me, absolutely convinced that you have never been hypnotized and that we're about to start an exercise to see if you can be hypnotized. But should I say the word sleep and snap my fingers, you will go straight into hypnosis. And standing up, here we go. Okay, Avneet, and you came to the lecture series today. And have you ever been hypnotized?
Now? No.
Never. Okay. Do you have any idea what hypnosis might feel like?
Yeah.
You'd enjoy it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've not been hypnotized so far?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Few people have.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is just look at that light for a moment and sleep, standing up. Wonderful job. Well done, Ebony. You're doing a great job. Totally sleepy. And you're going to sit down again in a moment, taking your seat. And you can sit down now very nicely. Well done. And when I shake your hand in a moment, you go so deeply into hypnosis, you will feel spectacular and sleep. Now, in a moment, Avneet, I want you to pick up in your mind the happiest moment you've ever experienced. And I want you to find that. 1, 2, 3, now. Now, I want you to hold that in your mind as though you've pressed a button on a DVD player and you've just frozen that image in your mind. It's a wonderful image, isn't it? It makes you feel great, doesn't it? You can feel that wonderful feeling building you up inside, making you feel confident. It makes you feel wonderful. It makes you feel spectacular. It gives you a sense of absolute power. And I want you to build it even more intensely. I'm going to count to 3, and I want you to hold that feeling until it's filling your whole body like a beautiful vase that's been filled up with clear, sparkling mountain water. 1, getting stronger and more intense. You see it flooding around you. 2, filling your mind. And 3, holding that feeling right there. Now, in a moment, when I bring you completely out of hypnosis, you're going to retain that feeling all day. And it's going to make you feel great. Avni, I'm going to count to 3. You're going to come out of hypnosis and you will feel wonderful. 1, beginning to wake up. 2, retaining that feeling. And 3, wide awake. Okay, you can stand up. How'd you feel?
Good.
Pretty good? Okay, I'm going to let you go down here. I'm going to walk with you because I don't want you taking a head dive.
Thank you.
Okay. And have a seat. Okay. Now, everybody on stage, with one exception, you. You're going to stay right there. Just watch my finger for a moment. And as it gets closer to your eyes, your eyelids are going to get heavier and heavier. And soon they feel so heavy that you can't possibly keep them open. It doesn't matter how much you try, they just drift closed. And it's nice when they're closed. It's like those lovely sunny afternoons when you're a child. You could just doze off and sleep. You're going to stay right here while I let the other people off the stage. You're going to stay there feeling good, feeling confident, not worried about a thing. You're doing great. Now, the remainder of you, and I'm touching your shoulders as I come around, the remainder of you, I'm going to give a count of 3. We're going to wake up. We're going to stand up. And 1, beginning to wake up. 2, taking a nice deep breath to get some energy. And 3, opening your eyes, standing up. Well done. Okay, let's get you off the side. Take the side exit there so that if you do take a dive, you land on someone nice and soft. That's good. Now, and in fact, what's happening here, I'll tell you a little bit about this as we go through, right? What's happening here is I've taken those who are probably the most suggestible, in other words, the people who volunteer, right? They're ready for this. What I then do is I'm narrowing down the group to the most suggestible. And this is exactly how it's done in show hypnosis. You bring up a group, and then you begin to pare it down and pare it down and pare it down. What you might see if you see someone on TV who's been hypnotized, what you're probably seeing is one of, could have been 100 people who were hypnotized, and they're narrowing it down to the most suggestible. Now, there's no trick in that. All that's happening is a steady filtering. The person's certainly in hypnosis. There's no setup going on. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do for the sake of entertainment. But when one sees just the clip that gets shown, of course, it might look like a setup because they are just so amazingly receptive to suggestion. And Avneet, I believe it was, did a wonderful job there. And she was doing great. She's obviously very suggestible, and that's a very positive thing. It means she visualizes very well. It also means that she can use tools such as self-hypnosis tools to create a feeling of confidence and to reinforce her own feelings and her own ideas. Now, if she needs to, for instance, prepare for a presentation or go into a work situation which might be a little difficult, or even deal with issues in her personal life, whatever it might be, she has an additional tool that she can tap into, and knowing that is hugely valuable. So now I'm going to ask you what your name is, and you can tell me.
Taylor.
Taylor, what I'd like you to do is come sit forward, and standing up, here we go. And have a little seat here. Okay. Now, Taylor, I'm going to get you to picture in your mind the number 50. And as you picture that number, just let it fill your mind for a moment. You picture that number, a beautiful, big number 50, as though it's projected on a screen in your mind. And now as you begin to focus on it very, very strongly, let it fade away. And you replace it with the number 49. And 49 looks nice, doesn't it? It's relaxing to look at it. And now I want you to remove that number and let it fade and replace it with the number 48. And you're going to continue doing that for the next few moments. And as you do so, with each number, you feel more relaxed, more calm. Letting those numbers just tumble by, it feels so calming that it makes you feel almost as though you want to drift completely off to sleep. Each number fades and you feel wonderful. You have no feelings of anxiety left. You're not worried about anything at all. You feel so sleepy. The most welcoming thing now is to just stretch out and slide onto the floor and let yourself doze right off. And in fact, if you think about it now, that's a very slippery chair, isn't it? It's funny, it's almost as though it's covered in oil. And the more you think about that chair, the more effort it takes to stay on it, because all you want to do is slide down, settle on the floor, slip onto the floor and put your head down and drift off to sleep. And it doesn't matter how hard you try to stay on that chair. You can feel it slipping and sliding. It's as though it was covered in butter or covered in oil. And you feel yourself sliding down. You just want to let yourself disappear onto the floor and collapse. The weight of your shoulders so heavy now. Your head gently being pushed forward. Your shoulders sliding forward. You let yourself slip and slide. And your legs feel so weak now. And your arms feel weak. You just want to settle down. And in a moment I'm going to snap my fingers and you're going to take a total nap, just letting yourself slide to the floor and having that little sleep. And sleep now. Okay, Taylor's taking a nice little doze there. That's good. Now you're seeing a little bit of the application of hypnotic technique. It's very, very simple, really. And what you can see is that there are many things that we can do in hypnosis. There are many suggestions we could put to someone when they're in this state, and they will completely take them, and Taylor's going to find that the more she tries to stay on that chair, the harder it is to stay there now. She just wants to slip off. No, you're not quite there, are you?
I can hear people whispering.
They're whispering. What do you think they're whispering?
No, I just heard whispering and it like, that was weird. Well, being hypnotized.
Okay. Watch my hand. Watch my hand. And as it gets further down, your eyes get heavier. And sleepier and sleep. Now I'm going to give you a count of 3. You're going to wake up completely. You're almost there anyway, but we're going to wake you up completely. 1, taking a nice deep breath. 2, having a little stretch. And 3, opening your eyes wide and wide awake. Okay, you can stand up and go and let yourself down the sideway there. Now, the reason we have to do that exit every time is just that we don't want someone walking around half in and half out. But what's happening with Taylor, she's not quite in there. She's sort of there, but not quite. So, you know, in a very short show like this, we don't really want to spend too much time on those inductions because they're time-consuming, and I don't want to burn away all these hours with that. But you can see how people can be put into a receptive state fairly easily. You know, that only took a little while, and it put people into a very receptive and calming state. Okay, so what examples do we see that in everyday life? One of the most worrying ones, and one which I've come across a couple of times now, is reminiscent of something which used to happen in Africa. If you go into some villages in the back of nowhere and they're not familiar with seeing visitors come in, what sometimes happens is the first person that comes out is actually a witch doctor. A witch doctor, it's a funny word, that. Sangoma, shaman, whatever you want to call them. But basically they're covered in all sorts of porcupine quills and they've got all this regalia and they look frightening. And they send them out to say, okay, who's this person coming in? Well, there's good reasons that they look frightening. They are frightening people. They emanate all the offices, all the accoutrements of an office of power. You know, they've got this mask, they've got feathers, they've got bits of claw, God knows what else is going on. They look frightening. And there are certainly plenty of stories of people saying, okay, the witch doctor points the bone and says, you will die in a week, pointing the bone. And some poor guy goes off and sits under the shade by their shack and literally dies within a week because they believe what this witch doctor has said. Now, that is absolutely a case of suggestion. There's no magic to it. It's quite simple. If you tell someone they're going to die in a week, if that person believes you, guess what? They're going to die in a week. And it's well documented. This stuff has happened many, many times. So how does this happen in Vancouver? Or even just generally in the West? Well, imagine that that's not a witch doctor. Imagine that's some guy in a white coat with a clipboard and a stethoscope. And he says, well, look, I'm terribly sorry, but the tests came up unfortunate. And we figure you have about 6 months. Well, if you believe that, then it's probably true, right? Now, there are plenty of stories of people who don't believe it and who fight back or do other things. My mother was given a 6 months death sentence by a guy. His name was Dr. Oliveira. For her, 27 years later, she died. 6 months turned to a year and turned to whatever. Unfortunately, Dr. Oliveira left the hospital early one day and stepped out into traffic by mistake and got hit by a truck, which in a funny sort of way I found amusing, but that's because I'm a very sick man. But the long and the short of it is, we have to be very careful when we assume authority has it right. We have to be very, very careful when we give our belief too cheaply, because the result can be very dangerous. I, from time to time, work with people in the police and various other agencies, and one of the things which I find very disturbing is that some policemen, some police officers will say, yes, when you talk to a witness, it's amazing how much information you can get out of them. Well, yeah, it is amazing, because sometimes you can talk to someone in such a way that you'll get so much information out of them, probably because it's not real. Now, I've seen some witness reports that simply could not conceivably be accurate because there's so much detail. No one individual could receive that much data, and they kind of seen it from those different angles. And sure enough, often that evidence does get thrown out, but sometimes it doesn't. So we have to be very, very careful when we give our belief. And in the case of the doctor, yes, he's got all those offices of state, like the witch doctor, all those accoutrements of state, all that image. In the case of the police officer, yeah, it's the same strange similarity, isn't it? It's authority. It's, I should be able to trust this person. So, you know, we have to be a little careful of this. In fact, my father told me a little bit about, he was in